It's the 15-foot mystery, moving slowly and methodically through Alaska's freezing water. Locals asking if this is Alaska's own version of the Loch Ness Monster.
Alaska's legendary lake monster may be more real than anyone imagined. For decades, pilots, fishermen, and local residents have reported enormous shapes moving beneath the waters of Lake Iliamna, Alaska's largest lake. What began as a local legend has evolved into one of North America's most intriguing mysteries. Now, new investigations, scientific searches, and surprising discoveries are shedding fresh light on the phenomenon. Each sighting and new piece of evidence raises bigger questions. If something has inspired these reports for generations, what exactly is lurking beneath Lake Iliamna's dark waters? Join us as we uncover what researchers have proven. The discovery that stunned Alaska. Most monster stories begin with rumors. A strange shadow in the water, a blurry photograph, a frightened witness telling a story that sounds too unbelievable to be true. But Alaska's most famous lake mystery is different. For decades, reports have come from experienced pilots, fishermen, hunters, and local residents who knew these waters better than almost anyone else. They were not searching for monsters. They were simply living their lives when they claimed to see something enormous moving beneath the surface. That is why the mystery of Lake Iliamna has refused to disappear. Hidden among Alaska's vast wilderness lies a lake so large that it can feel more like an inland sea than a freshwater lake. Its dark waters stretch for miles across a remote landscape, surrounded by mountains, forests, and rugged terrain. In some places, the lake reaches depths that seem almost endless. Standing on its shoreline, it is easy to understand why secrets could remain hidden there for generations. For years, stories circulated about a gigantic creature swimming beneath these cold waters. Many people dismissed the reports as exaggerations or local folklore. After all, tales of mysterious lake monsters exist all over the world. Most eventually fade away when evidence fails to appear. But something unusual happened in Alaska. Instead of disappearing, the reports continued. Year after year, new witnesses came forward. Some described seeing massive shapes gliding beneath the surface. Others reported unusually large creatures breaking the water before vanishing again. The details were not always identical, yet many descriptions shared a surprising similarity. Witnesses often spoke of something far larger than any fish they expected to encounter. As interest in the mystery grew, researchers began paying closer attention. What made the reports difficult to ignore was not just their number, it was the people making them. Several witnesses had spent their lives around lakes, rivers, and wildlife. They knew how to recognize common animals, yet many insisted that what they saw did not match anything they could easily explain. The mystery became even more fascinating because Lake Iliamna itself seemed perfectly designed to hide something unusual. Its enormous size makes exploration difficult. Harsh weather conditions can appear without warning. Large sections of the lake remain largely untouched compared to more populated regions. Even today, much of what happens beneath its surface remains unseen. As scientists, explorers, and curious investigators looked deeper into the legend, they discovered something unexpected. The answer might not involve a mythical monster at all. Instead, evidence began pointing toward a possibility that many people found equally fascinating. What if witnesses were encountering a real animal, one capable of growing to extraordinary sizes and creating stories that lasted for generations? That possibility changed the entire conversation. Suddenly, the mystery was no longer just about folklore. It became a question of science. Could an overlooked giant actually be living in these waters? Could decades of sightings have been inspired by a real creature that most people rarely get the chance to see? And if so, why had it remained hidden for so long? The deeper investigators looked, the more complicated the story became. Every answer seemed to create two new questions. Some evidence appeared to support natural explanations. Other reports remained difficult to explain completely. The line between legend and reality became increasingly blurred. What makes this mystery truly captivating is that it sits in the space between what people know and what they still do not understand. Alaska is one of the wildest places left on Earth. Vast areas remain isolated, mysterious, and largely unexplored. Nature still has the power to surprise even experienced experts. History has repeatedly shown that animals once dismissed as myths sometimes turn out to be real, and that raises an intriguing possibility. What if the witnesses were not inventing stories? What if something truly remarkable was moving beneath the waters of Lake Iliamna all along? To understand how this mystery captured the imagination of an entire region, we need to go back to the sightings that transformed a remote Alaskan lake into one of North America's most enduring legends. The encounters that followed would leave pilots, fishermen, and local residents questioning what they had just seen, and their stories would become the foundation of a mystery that continues to this day. The terrifying encounters that started the legend. The mystery did not begin with television crews, internet discussions, or modern investigators searching for answers. It began with ordinary people who unexpectedly found themselves at the center of a story that would grow far beyond anything they could have imagined. One of the most talked about moments in the history of Lake Iliamna reportedly occurred during the 1940s. At a time when Alaska was still far more remote than it is today, pilots regularly flew across vast stretches of wilderness where roads were rare and communities were separated by great distances. These pilots spent countless hours in the air, observing landscapes that few people ever saw. Their experience made them highly familiar with the lakes, rivers, wildlife, and natural features below. During one flight over Lake Iliamna, a pilot and a wildlife official reportedly noticed something unusual in the water beneath them. From their position in the air, they observed several large shapes moving below the lake's surface. What caught their attention was not merely the presence of the animals, but their apparent size. The creatures appeared much larger than what they expected to see in a freshwater lake. The sighting quickly became a subject of conversation among local residents. Stories spread from one community to another. People wondered what could possibly grow to such a size in a lake located deep within Alaska's wilderness. Some believed the witnesses had simply misjudged the scale of what they saw. Others were convinced they had encountered something extraordinary. As years passed, the reports continued. Fishermen working on the lake occasionally described seeing enormous shapes moving beneath their boats. Some reported dark forms appearing briefly before disappearing into deeper water. Others recalled moments when the lake seemed calm and peaceful, only for something unusually large to disturb the surface before vanishing again. What made these stories interesting was that many witnesses were not seeking attention. Most were people who spent large portions of their lives outdoors. They were familiar with bears, moose, salmon, and countless other animals found throughout Alaska. Yet some insisted that what they had observed did not resemble anything they normally encountered. The reports varied in detail, which is common in eyewitness accounts. Human memory is not perfect, especially when people witness something unexpected. However, several descriptions shared recurring themes. Witnesses often mentioned exceptional size. Many described smooth movement through the water. Some believed they had seen a single giant animal, while others thought multiple large creatures might be present in the lake. As these stories accumulated over the decades, the legend of the Lake Iliamna monster grew stronger. Newspapers occasionally reported on the sightings. Curious visitors traveled to the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious creature for themselves. Each new report added another layer to the growing mystery. At the same time, skepticism remained strong. Scientists and wildlife experts pointed out that eyewitness observations can be influenced by distance, weather conditions, water reflections, and simple mistakes in judging size. A large animal viewed from far away, can appear much bigger than it actually is. Waves, shadows, and unusual lighting can also create misleading impressions. Yet even with those explanations, the sightings refused to disappear. Every few years, another report would emerge. Another witness would describe seeing something large moving through the lake. Another story would reignite public curiosity. Instead of fading away, the mystery seemed to renew itself with each generation. The result was a fascinating puzzle. On one side were people convinced that something unusual existed in Lake Iliamna. On the other side were experts searching for ordinary explanations behind extraordinary claims. Between those two positions stood a lake so vast and mysterious that proving either side completely correct remained difficult. As interest in the sightings grew, investigators began focusing on an important question. If witnesses were truly seeing something large, where exactly could such a creature hide? The answer led researchers to take a closer look at Lake Iliamna itself, and what they discovered made the mystery even more intriguing. The lake was far larger, deeper, and more secretive than most people realized. What lurks beneath Lake Iliamna? To understand why the mystery has survived for so many decades, it is important to understand the lake itself. The more researchers learned about Lake Iliamna, the more they realized that this was not an ordinary body of water. In many ways, it seemed like the perfect place for legends to grow. Lake Iliamna is the largest freshwater lake in Alaska, stretching across a vast area of rugged wilderness. It is so large that standing on one shore does not always give a clear view of the other side. Strong winds can transform its calm surface into rough, powerful waves that resemble those of an ocean. During storms, the lake can become intimidating even for experienced boat operators. Its size alone is enough to capture attention, but the lake's depth makes it even more remarkable. In some locations, the water reaches incredible depths. Beneath the surface lies a hidden world that few people ever see. Sunlight struggles to reach the deepest areas. Visibility can be limited, and much of what happens below remains concealed from human eyes. For generations, these dark waters have fueled curiosity and speculation. Unlike smaller lakes that can be explored relatively easily, Lake Iliamna presents serious challenges. The remote location makes scientific research difficult and expensive. Harsh weather conditions can interrupt investigations without warning. Large portions of the lake receive very little human activity compared to more populated regions. This isolation has played a major role in keeping the mystery alive. When people imagine an unknown creature hiding somewhere, they often picture a place where observation is limited and nature remains largely untouched. Lake Iliamna fits that description almost perfectly. Its enormous size means that even modern technology cannot monitor every part of the lake at all times. As a result, believers often point to the lake's environment as evidence that something unusual could remain hidden there. They argue that a large animal living in deep water might rarely appear near the surface. If sightings occurred only occasionally, proving its existence would be extremely difficult. Skeptics, however, view the situation differently. They argue that the lake's vastness can also make ordinary animals appear mysterious. A brief glimpse of a large fish, a group of swimming animals, or unusual wave patterns could easily be misunderstood. In a place where visibility is often poor, mistakes become much more likely. The debate has continued for years because both sides acknowledge one important fact: the lake does not easily reveal its secrets. Researchers studying the area discovered another fascinating detail. Lake Iliamna supports a rich ecosystem filled with aquatic life. Salmon migrate through its waters, attracting predators and creating one of Alaska's most important natural environments. The lake is home to numerous species that have adapted to survive in its cold conditions. This raised an important question. Could one of these known animals be responsible for the sightings? The idea may sound simple, but it quickly became one of the most significant developments in the entire mystery. If witnesses were seeing a real creature rather than an imaginary monster, then investigators needed to identify which animal could match the descriptions. Some possibilities were immediately ruled out. Others seemed increasingly plausible as experts examined the evidence. Certain species were capable of reaching impressive sizes. Viewed under the right conditions, they could appear much larger than people expected. Combined with distance, lighting, and surprise, an ordinary encounter could become an extraordinary story. Yet the mystery refused to disappear completely. The lake's immense size, hidden depths, and challenging environment continued to leave room for uncertainty. Every unanswered question added another layer to the legend. Every new sighting renewed public fascination. The deeper researchers looked, the clearer it became that solving the mystery would require more than eyewitness accounts. If answers were going to be found, science would need to step in. That is exactly what happened next. Investigators began using modern tools and research methods to search for evidence beneath the surface. What they discovered would push the mystery in a surprising new direction and bring experts closer than ever to explaining what people may have been seeing all along. Scientists finally investigate the mystery. For decades, the mystery of Lake Iliamna survived mainly through stories. Pilots shared what they believed they had seen from the air. Fishermen described strange encounters on the water. Local residents passed along accounts that had been discussed for generations. The reports were fascinating, but they all faced the same problem. Stories alone could not prove what was living beneath the lake's surface. Eventually, curiosity grew so strong that researchers, wildlife experts, explorers, and documentary teams decided to search for answers themselves. The goal was simple. If something unusual existed in Lake Iliamna, modern technology should be able to find evidence of it. What followed was one of the most ambitious efforts ever made to investigate the lake's famous legend. Researchers began examining the reports carefully. Instead of focusing on the most dramatic claims, they looked for patterns. They studied where sightings were reported, what witnesses described, and whether any scientific explanations could match the observations. At the same time, investigators turned their attention to the lake itself. They used sonar equipment capable of detecting large objects beneath the water. Boats traveled across sections of the lake while instruments scanned the depths below. Cameras were deployed in hopes of capturing images of anything unusual. Experts collected information about fish populations, water conditions, and the overall ecosystem. Researchers did not find evidence of a prehistoric monster hiding in the lake. No unknown species emerged from the depths. No giant reptile appeared on camera. No scientific study confirmed the existence of a creature resembling the monsters often portrayed in popular culture. Yet investigators also discovered reasons why the sightings may have occurred in the first place. As scientists examined the possibilities, one explanation repeatedly stood out from the others. The answer may have been hiding in plain sight all along. Attention began shifting toward one of the oldest and most remarkable fish on Earth, the sturgeon. Sturgeon are extraordinary animals. Long before humans built cities or recorded history, these fish were already swimming through ancient waters. Their ancestors have existed for millions of years, surviving dramatic changes that wiped out countless other species. Most importantly, some sturgeon species are capable of reaching enormous sizes. Large individuals can grow far longer and heavier than many people expect. Encountering one unexpectedly in deep water could easily leave a lasting impression. For someone unfamiliar with seeing such a fish, the experience might seem almost unbelievable. For many researchers, this became the leading explanation behind the legend. What made the idea especially compelling was that it did not require people to be dishonest. Witnesses could have been reporting exactly what they believed they saw. The difference was that an encounter with a giant fish might have been interpreted as something much more mysterious. Human perception can be surprisingly unreliable during unexpected situations. When people see something unusual for only a few seconds, the brain often fills in missing details. Size can be difficult to judge across large distances. Water reflections can distort shapes. Lighting conditions can alter colors and appearances. A fish that already looks prehistoric could appear even more extraordinary under such circumstances. But the story did not end there. Not everyone was fully convinced by the sturgeon explanation. Scientists acknowledge that eyewitness accounts are valuable, but not always precise. Memory changes over time. Different people can observe the same event and describe it in different ways. This makes it difficult to build firm conclusions from sightings alone. Still, researchers agreed on one important point. The lake itself contains enough mystery and complexity to generate unusual observations without requiring the existence of a giant monster. As investigations continued, other explanations were considered as well. Large schools of fish moving together could create the illusion of a single massive creature. Unusual wave formations might produce strange shapes on the surface. Seals occasionally entering freshwater environments could also surprise observers unfamiliar with seeing them there. Each possibility explained part of the mystery, though none answered every question completely. That is what makes Lake Iliamna such a fascinating case. The evidence does not support the existence of a giant mythical monster lurking beneath the water. At the same time, the reports cannot simply be dismissed as nonsense. Real people experienced something that captured their attention strongly enough to remember it for years, sometimes decades. In many ways, the investigation transformed the legend from a monster story into something even more interesting. Instead of asking whether a mythical creature exists, researchers began exploring how nature, human perception, and a unique environment can combine to create one of North America's most enduring mysteries. The search for answers revealed that the truth is often more complex than either believers or skeptics expect. Somewhere between folklore and science lies a story shaped by enormous waters, unusual sightings, remarkable wildlife, and generations of curiosity. And despite all the investigations, one fact remains unchanged. Lake Iliamna still guards many of its secrets beneath dark, cold waters. While science has brought us closer to understanding the mystery than ever before, there are still questions that continue to spark debate. Those unanswered questions are exactly why the legend refuses to disappear and why people remain fascinated by what may still be hidden below the surface. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.